They tried to hide it. They tried to downplay it. But tonight, everything has exploded. Doctors have just confirmed that David Mann's latest test results are not just bad, they're alarming, unpredictable, and far worse than anyone inside that hospital dared to admit. Something is happening inside David's body that even senior specialists are struggling to understand. And the panic behind those sealed ICU doors is nothing compared to the shockwave tearing through his family moments ago. A leaked medical report started circulating, yes. Leaked, and it paints a picture so terrifying that even the staff allegedly begged administrators to keep it off the record. David's heart readings? Unstable? His liver panels? Crashing without warning. His oxygen levels? Dropping in sudden, unexplained waves that have left doctors scrambling, whispering, and arguing right outside his door. But here's this video: nitrogen monoxide. One was supposed to know his body isn't responding to treatment the way they predicted. Something is resisting. Something is fighting back. And now fans around the world are asking the same question. What is really happening to David Mann? And why does every update feel more terrifying than the last? Stay with me, because the truth behind these test results is way darker than the hospital wants you to believe. From the outside, the world always believed David Mann lived the perfect life, successful career, a loving family, a legacy built on decades of loyalty, faith, and resilience. But what most people never understood was that behind the cameras, behind the smiles, behind the carefully curated public image, there were storms brewing for years, and tonight, those storms have finally erupted into a full-blown medical disaster that absolutely no one saw coming, because this wasn't just a sudden health crisis. This wasn't just an unexpected collapse. This was the final explosion of pressure that had been building inside David's life for months, silently, secretly, and dangerously, until his own body couldn't take it anymore. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to the tension. The arguments, the hidden stress, the emotional battles, and the quiet breaking point that pushed David beyond the edge. It started with the family dynamic shifting. Tamla and Sandra both sensed something was wrong long before doctors did. David had been moving slower, breathing heavier, losing weight he couldn't explain, waking up in the middle of the night holding his chest. But every time they begged him to get checked, he brushed it off with the same sentence: "I'm fine. I just need rest." But rest wasn't helping. Water wasn't helping. Medication wasn't helping. Silence wasn't helping. And the reason was simple. David wasn't just battling fatigue, he was battling severe internal damage nobody knew was happening. Weeks before his collapse, insiders say he fainted twice. Both times he blamed it on dehydration, refusing to admit something deeper was wrong. Even friends close to the family said he seemed off, as if his energy was draining faster than he could refill it. And the worst, this video? He kept performing, kept traveling, kept pushing himself because he didn't want to disappoint anyone. Not his family, not his supporters, not the people who believed he was unbreakable. But pressure doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It multiplies silently, aggressively, until it becomes impossible to control. That breaking point finally hit one night inside the living room when David suddenly clutched his chest, gasped for air, and collapsed onto the floor. Tamla screamed for help. Sandra froze, unable to process what she was seeing. The ambulance arrived in under 6 minutes. But those 6 minutes felt like 6 hours. When David arrived at the hospital, doctors thought it was a simple cardiac episode. Something manageable, something routine, something treatable. But the moment they ran the first test, everything changed. His heart wasn't just weak, it was misfiring. His kidneys weren't just struggling, they were shutting down. His liver wasn't just inflamed, it was dangerously unstable. Doctors were stunned. These were not issues that appear out of nowhere. These were warnings that had been ignored, overlooked, or hidden for far too long. According to an insider nurse who overheard the first medical briefing, it wasn't one organ, it was all of them. Everything in his body was in distress. We couldn't understand how he was even standing the day before, and that's when the pressure surrounding David came into full focus, because people who know the family say things had been tense behind closed doors for months. Arguments about work, about financial stress, about emotional exhaustion, about old wounds resurfacing. It all took a toll on him. Even close friends admitted they saw the decline coming. They warned him. They tried to step in. But David, being the quiet fighter he always was, kept his pain silent. He didn't want to be a burden. He didn't want to worry anyone. And now, that silence has thrown him into the most terrifying battle of his life. Inside the hospital, chaos reigns. Doctors pacing, nurses whispering, specialists being called in from other departments. Every hour brings a new challenge, a new complication, a new reason to panic. And every time someone steps out to update the family, the news seems to get worse, but there's another layer nobody wants to talk about. Family tension. People close to the Mann family know that stress didn't just come from health issues, it came from disagreement, immense emotional divides, and unspoken resentment that had been simmering beneath the surface. David carried that weight, and now his body is collapsing under it. This crisis didn't begin today. It didn't begin last week. It began the moment David started sacrificing his own health to keep everyone else happy, and now the consequences are unfolding on a hospital bed where doctors are begging the family to prepare for the worst. But this is only the beginning, because what the doctors found next, that's the part that has the entire medical team terrified. And trust me, you're not ready for the twist that's coming. The real chaos didn't begin when David collapsed. It began after the doctors opened his file, compared the numbers, and realized almost simultaneously that none of this made sense. There was no logical medical explanation for why David's body was crashing this violently, this suddenly, and this aggressively. And that confusion, that uncertainty, that fear, it sent the entire medical team spiraling into a panic. They tried desperately to hide from the family, but someone slipped. Someone said too much. And that's when everything erupted. One doctor and intern who had only been working for 4 months accidentally let one sentence slip: something's wrong with his labs. They don't match his history. That sentence was enough to send Tamla into a full-blown breakdown. What do you mean, they don't match his history? What does that even mean? No one answered her. Nurses froze. Senior doctors exchanged looks. Something wasn't adding up. And they knew it. Behind the scenes, a secret meeting was held inside the physician's conference room. We're talking whispered voices, locked doors, files spread across the table, test results placed side by side, and conflicting numbers everywhere. His kidneys showed signs of long-term stress, yet his previous medical reports from just months ago were perfectly normal. His liver markers spiked in ways usually linked to toxicity exposure, not natural illness. Even his blood samples came back with inconsistencies that didn't duplicate when retested. Doctors were confused. But someone else wasn't: an insider, a staff member, someone who had seen things before the collapse. According to the leaked message this staff member sent to a friend, now circulating in private WhatsApp groups, this isn't random. Something has been building in his system for weeks, maybe longer. And the worst, this didn't come from natural causes. When this leak hit social media, people went crazy. The hashtag something happened to David started trending. Fan pages started speculating. And the family, already stressed beyond measure, became furious. Because here's to this video no one expected. Tamla and Sandra began fighting inside the hospital hallway. Not yelling, but that tight, explosive, shaking with emotion kind of whisper problem that's actually worse than yelling, according to someone who was there. It was about responsibility, blame, guilt. Someone felt this could have been prevented. Someone else felt ignored. This family division grew even stronger when a doctor pulled them aside and delivered the first major bombshell. David's system tested positive for a substance he was never prescribed. Yes, a foreign substance. Traces of something that should not have been in his blood. The moment those words came out of the doctor's mouth, everything shattered. Tamla burst into tears. Sandra stormed out of the room. Family, friends froze. And social media exploded. Because while the hospital desperately tried to keep this information private, a nurse leaked it anonymously to a social media news page. Within minutes, the post hit 30,000 shares. Within 1 hour, it crossed 200,000 views. The caption read, "Breaking, David Mann exposed to unknown substance. Doctors suspect external factors. Investigation underway." People started asking questions the family was not ready for. Was he poisoned? Was it medication misuse? Was it accidental? Was it intentional? And while the public argued, the family faced a nightmare decision inside that cold ICU hallway. Should they call the police? A hospital administrator recommended they do. A senior doctor insisted they shouldn't. "We don't have proof yet." A nurse begged them to look deeper because this isn't normal. But the real shock came when the toxicology specialist arrived with a second update. The substance found in David's system had been building up over time. Not one dose, not one accident. This was gradual, slow, consistent exposure, and that changed everything. Because if it was gradual, if it was steady, if it was repeated, then someone, somewhere, knew something. Someone had seen the signs. Someone had access to David regularly enough for this to happen. The family was stunned. The fans were horrified. The doctors were terrified. In fact, one senior physician said something that sent a chill through the entire ward. This kind of buildup doesn't happen without external influence. Someone needs to start asking very serious questions. That sentence cracked open the real conflict because suddenly, this wasn't just a health crisis. This became a mystery. A suspicion. A potential crime. Who was around David before the collapse? Who handled his medication? Who cooked his meals? Who traveled with him? Who argued with him? Who was at the house the night before? And then, just when the family thought things couldn't get worse, a new test result came in. A result that completely destroyed the regional medical timeline. A result that shifted suspicion from one family member to someone else entirely. And trust me, this twist is about to change everything. The hospital was already buzzing with tension. But the moment the latest test results arrived, the entire atmosphere shifted from panic to outright fear. You could feel it in the way the nurses suddenly stopped smiling. You could hear it in the way the doctors' voices dropped to low, cautious whispers. You could see it in the way Tamla held her breath every time someone in a lab coat walked toward her, because this wasn't just another test result. This was the test that would determine one thing: was David's condition natural or unnatural? And the answer? It shook the entire room. The substance found in David's bloodstream, the one doctors originally thought was some sort of accidental contaminant, was confirmed to be a specific compound designed to slow organ function over time. Not a poison, not a drug. Something far more chilling, a medically classified inhibitor that is never given outside monitored environments. Meaning someone had access. Someone had knowledge. Someone had the opportunity to expose him repeatedly, but that wasn't even the worst this video. According to the specialist who broke the news, this substance was administered in microdoses over several weeks. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. The room froze. Tamla dropped to her knees crying. Sandrietta covered her mouth in horror. The doctors exchanged glances, the type of glances that say, "We're in over our heads." And then, in the midst of all this emotional devastation, another bombshell detonated. Security footage. Yes, the hospital had decided to review David's home surveillance footage from the days leading up to his collapse. Just routine, just procedure, they said, but the footage revealed something none of them expected: a figure, someone close to the family, entering the kitchen late at night, multiple times. Someone who shouldn't have been there. Someone who claimed they were checking on David, yet seemed to be tampering with his supplements, his drinks, and even a prescription bottle. The footage wasn't crystal clear, but it was enough to spark chaos, because the moment the family saw the silhouette, the argument started, a heated, emotional explosion right in the hospital corridor. "I told you something was wrong. Don't you dare accuse them. We need answers now." A nurse tried to calm them down, but by then the damage was done. The silence between family members? Heavy, painful, suspicious. And social media, fueled by leaks from inside sources, began spinning theories like wildfire. She was jealous, he owed someone money, revenge, A long-standing fight finally boiling over. Someone inside the circle wanted him weak. Hashtags flooded the internet. Hashtag who did this to Dav, hashtag David Mann mystery, hashtag family secrets exposed, but the internet was nowhere near ready for the twist that came next, because while everyone was pointing fingers inside the family, one doctor took a quiet risk, a private decision. He ordered a deeper toxicology panel, not required, not standard, not even recommended, but something about the case felt wrong to him, and that decision uncovered the real horror. This wasn't the first time David's organs showed signs of distress, according to archived records, and older labs ones never flagged before David had been showing microscopic traces of the same inhibitor months ago. Not strong enough to worry anyone, not visible enough for alarm. But now, with the new data overlaid, it was obvious someone had been dosing him for MO and THS. Slowly, quietly, methodically. The family's reaction? A meltdown. TAMELA screamed in disbelief. Sendratter punched the wall. A cousin collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably, but the twist didn't end there. Because suddenly the hospital doors burst open. A man in a dark jacket, heavy boots, and a badge stepped inside. Not police, not security, not hospital staff, a federal health investigator. His exact words sent a chill through the entire room. We received an anonymous tip. Someone believed David Mann was intentionally exposed. We're launching a formal inquiry starting now. The family stared at him, stunned. Doctors exchanged panicked looks. Nurses held their breath because an inquiry meant one thing. Someone had already come forward. Someone knew something. Someone had information powerful enough to bring in federal authorities. And the biggest question looming over everyone was, who sent the tip? And why now? Rumors swirled instantly. Some said it was a family friend. Some said it was a staff member terrified of what they saw. Others claimed it was someone much closer, someone who had been holding a dark secret and finally cracked under the pressure. But then, the biggest shock of all surfaced. The investigator revealed a piece of evidence they didn't expect to hear so soon. A text message, anonymous, chilling, sent directly to the federal tip line. It read, "Check the last person who gave him his supplements. They know exactly what they did." And just like that, the room fell silent because the last person wasn't a stranger, wasn't a friend, wasn't an outsider. It was someone the family trusted without question. Someone they never imagined would be dragged into a medical investigation. And the reveal? The name attached to that suspicion? That is where everything explodes next. The moment the story cracked open, the internet didn't just react, it detonated. Overnight, every corner of social media turned into a courtroom, a confession booth, a crime scene, and a gossip lounge all at once. Comment sections became war zones. People who hadn't tweeted in 5 years suddenly resurrected their accounts like they were called by destiny itself. And every single one of them had something to say. Because apparently everyone is an expert on celebrity scandals the second the tea starts boiling over. At first, the reaction was confusion, the type of stunned silence that you only get when people genuinely can't tell if they're being pranked, gaslight, or witnessing live history. Then came the disbelief, because nobody, and I mean nobody, expected the situation to escalate this quickly. They were expecting a messy breakup, a subliminal Instagram post, maybe a shady unfollow, but this was the type of scandal that had people calling their friends at 3 a.m. whispering, "Are you awake? You're not gonna believe this." And the industry? Oh, the industry reacted exactly the way an industry reacts when one of their well-polished storylines goes crashing off a cliff. Chaos in the group chats. Silence in the PR offices. Fake statements being drafted faster than interns could proofread them. Talent managers sending emergency reminders like, "Do not post anything. Do not like anything. Do not breathe in public unless I clear it first." Meanwhile, brands started panicking. Because nothing ruins a sponsorship cycle faster than being attached to a celebrity who just triggered the internet's volcanic meltdown. Some companies quietly removed their photos from websites. Others paused campaigns, citing creative repositioning, which is PR language for "we do not want to die on this hill." Even the tabloids, the same. Tabloids who thrive on disaster, suddenly started scrambling to figure out what angle to take. They knew the public was hungry, but they also knew that one wrong headline could get them dragged into the battlefield. But while the corporate world tried to tiptoe across the minefield, the fans did the complete opposite. They marched in, guns blazing, opinions loaded, and conspiracies ready to fire. Half of them defended, half of them attacked, and the rest sat in the middle like FBI agents stitching together screenshots, timestamps, and half-baked theories like they were preparing a documentary. The parasocial warriors came out in full armor. The self-appointed moral police showed up with megaphones. And the casual viewers? They popped popcorn and enjoyed the show. There were reaction videos within minutes, not hours, minutes. YouTubers who hadn't uploaded in months suddenly appeared with full lighting setups, studio microphones, and titles like "Breaking," "The Truth They Don't Want You to Know," entire podcasts dedicated emergency episodes. Even though they clearly had no idea what was going on. They just knew this scandal was trending, and that was enough to hit record. Celebrities chimed in, too, pretending to be shocked, even though you could tell half of them were delighted to have a distraction from their own quiet scandals. Some issued vague statements like sending love to everyone involved, which honestly meant nothing. Others posted cryptic messages on their Instagram stories like, "God reveals all in His time," as if they had insider knowledge, when in reality, they were just using the chaos to rack up views on their motivational reels. But the real entertainment came from the insiders, the anonymous accounts, the burner profiles, the people claiming they've known the truth for years. Suddenly, everyone had receipts. Everyone had tea. Everyone had exclusive insider connections, and even though half of the information was contradictory, the audience didn't care. The more confusing it got, the more addictive it became. Because in the world of internet scandals, clarity is boring. Chaos is currency. Then came the think pieces, the long, overly dramatic essays posted by people who turned a celebrity mess into a social anthropology study. They dissected motives. They analyzed micro-expressions. They treated every Instagram caption like a historical artifact. They were writing like the fate of the nation depended on it. And through it all, the silence from the main players only made things worse. That vacuum of information became gasoline for speculation. Every hour without a statement was interpreted as guilt, strategy, manipulation, fear, depending on which side of the outrage spectrum you were on. And the public ate it up because nothing keeps a scandal alive longer than unanswered questions. Even radio stations couldn't resist. Morning shows dedicated entire segments to it. Hosts laughed, debated, shaded, and dramatized every detail. Listeners called in with wild theories, half-truths, and completely fabricated insider claims. No one cared if it was real. They cared if it was entertaining. Hollywood PR circles were whispering that this was the messiest, most unpredictable situation they'd seen all year, and considering how messy the industry is, that says everything. Executives worried about long-term fallout. Producers debated whether to distance themselves or pivot the narrative. Some even considered rewriting scripts to slip in subtle references because nothing sells like relevance. But the biggest reaction? The fear from people who realized that if this secret could explode publicly, then no one's image is truly safe. Fear from celebrities who watched the meltdown and wondered if they'd be next. Fear from brands who saw how fast public opinion can swing. And fear from fans who suddenly questioned everything they thought they knew about their faves. It wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was a cultural earthquake. And the aftershocks were just beginning, just when everyone thought the situation couldn't get any darker, messier, or more unhinged. The universe decided to throw one last grenade straight into the center of the chaos. Because apparently, this scandal wasn't content with trending, it wanted to go down in history. And it did. The second a new piece of information dropped that rewired the entire narrative like someone flipped the plot upside down. It started with a file. Not a screenshot. Not a blurry screen recording. A full, unedited, 30-minute audio file that surfaced out of nowhere. No username. No caption. No explanation. Just a mysterious upload titled, "Here's what they didn't tell you," and within seconds, the internet went into cardiac arrest because the voice in that audio, it didn't just sound familiar. It was unmistakable. It was the one person nobody had suspected. Nobody had questioned. Nobody had even considered. Someone who had been standing in the background this entire time. Quietly, politely, innocently, like they were. Just a bystander watching everything unfold, but the audio proved something else entirely. They weren't an observer. They were the architect. The recording exposed late-night meetings that weren't supposed to happen. Conversations dripping with manipulation. Plans spoken in calm, rehearsed tones that made everything previously known look like a distraction. Like a smokescreen designed to keep the public busy while the real plot was happening behind closed doors. Every line in that recording peeled back another layer, another lie, another truth no one was prepared to confront. And the timing? Oh, the timing was suspicious in a way that made even the most neutral fans raise their eyebrows. Because if this audio had surfaced earlier, the entire scandal would have taken a different shape. If it surfaced later, the damage would have already been done. But dropped right now, at the peak of the frenzy? That wasn't an accident. That was strategy. Within minutes, analysts, podcasters, and self-appointed experts were breaking down the audio like it was the Zapruder film. People slowed it down, enhanced it, added captions, argued over who coughed at the 7-minute mark. And every second they analyzed it, the same conclusion kept slamming them in the face. This whole disaster wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't a mistake. It was orchestrated. And here's the twist. The mastermind didn't drop the audio out of guilt or fear. They dropped it because they were losing control. The scandal they built had mutated into something too big, too wild, too unpredictable. What started as a carefully constructed chess match had turned into a wildfire, burning in directions they never intended. So instead of letting the truth leak slowly, piece by piece, they detonated the entire truth bomb themselves. They sacrificed their own anonymity to take back control of the narrative. But the wildest this video? The audio ended with a line that froze every listener. A line spoken calmly, almost proudly, like someone signing their name on a masterpiece. This isn't the end. It's the reset, and that sentence alone shifted the entire internet from chaos to hysteria. Because suddenly, everyone realized something terrifying. The mastermind wasn't done. They weren't defeated. They weren't apologizing. They were preparing for the next phase. But what phase? What comes after a scandal that already burned down reputations, relationships, careers, and public trust? What bigger play could possibly be left? Theories exploded everywhere. Some claimed a documentary was already in production. Others believed new evidence was coming. A few whispered that the audio was only part one, that more files were set to drop like a countdown no one could stop. And the most unhinged corner of the internet swore that the mastermind wasn't acting alone, that a second player, someone even more powerful, was about to be unmasked. But before anyone could settle on a theory, the account that uploaded the audio vanished, deleted, gone, like it had never existed, and the only thing it left behind was the question that kept everyone awake. If this was the reset, then what exactly is coming next? And now, before this story spirals into its next explosion, I need to hear from you. Because this situation is no longer just a scandal, it's a full-blown thriller unfolding in real time. And your voice is this video of the investigation. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Whose side are you on? Do you believe the audio was leaked intentionally, or do you think someone else is pulling strings behind the scenes? And most importantly, who do you think the real mastermind is now that the game has changed? Your theories matter because every our new pieces keep falling into place, and the audience has been right more times than the insiders pretending to know everything. So go ahead, hit the like button if you want the next set of leaks broken down the moment they drop. Subscribe so you don't miss the next twist, because trust me, the next update is not just shocking, it's dangerous. There are receipts that haven't surfaced yet, conversations that haven't leaked, and a twist coming that will flip everything you thought you knew. Stay ready. Stay watching, because the real story hasn't even begun.